As we keep an eye on politics, Chicago's downtown curfew for kids or youth have been in the spotlight after a string of high-profile incidents.
In response, Second Ward Alderman Brian Hopkins has proposed moving up the time of when that curfew is going to start, and he joins us live here in studio as you plan to introduce this proposal to City Council today. First of all, welcome. Thanks for getting up early to be with us.
Glad to be here, talking about a very important subject.
So the curfew currently starts at 10 p.m. You want to move it up to 8 p.m. Why?
Well, a lot of mischief can happen in that 2-hour period between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. and a lot of criminal activity too, unfortunately, which is what we've seen. The horrific attack on the young couple in Streeterville a couple of weeks ago happened about 9 p.m. Police were aware that the large group was gathering at that point in time, and it was growing. So if they had the ability to enforce a curfew at an earlier moment, they possibly could have prevented that crime from happening by causing the youth to disperse and breaking up the younger ones, making them return to their homes or bringing them to the police station, which is what we typically do during curfew enforcement, and requiring a responsible adult, a parent or a guardian or a relative, to come and get them. You shouldn't have 14-year-olds alone, unsupervised, downtown in the overnight hours.
You know, though, the earlier you make a curfew, the more complex it might become in terms of having to make exceptions. I mean, is there a point where it might become so complex that it won't work? And maybe even more importantly, Alderman, do you have the council votes to get it passed?
Well, we'll see. I mean, that's like anything. You start off with a handful of co-sponsors and supporters, and you see if you can grow the numbers from there. It takes 26 votes to pass anything in the City Council. I'm going to try to get 26 votes, and it's an important issue. And to the point about exceptions, recall that former Mayor Lori Lightfoot was the first one to impose a curfew of this type, and she had to walk back the initial proposal because it didn't have the exceptions in it. We now have exceptions for things like going to and from jobs, for going to ticketed or scheduled events, any officially sanctioned function that, we want teenagers to come to. We want them to come downtown, when they have reasons like that they're more than welcome, like anyone would be. So we're using those same exceptions that Mayor Lightfoot put in her executive order that the City Council eventually passed. Those will all remain. We're not looking to jail kids for being kids. We're not looking to punish people for coming downtown. We're looking to have one more tool that we can use to quell the violence and to break up these large groups, which typically, turn into chaos and mayhem after they're allowed to run rampant.
Often in the conversation is that kids will come downtown because they don't feel safe in their own neighborhoods. You don't want to bring that trouble to or highlight in a certain area. But what is your response to that as well? You mentioned earlier about parents or guardians. What if they don't have that safe haven or that structure at home? What's the alternative? Where do they go? What do they do if they're not coming downtown?
That's another conversation that we're also having on a parallel track right now. We're spending $100 million right now on community violence interrupters and youth programming, diversion programs, things to give youth alternatives, to show them a different path, to catch them at that early age and get them to go off of the track to crime and to prison. We're doing more than we've ever done in that regard, and we should. We actually need to do more. But they happen to coexist. You need law enforcement when laws are broken, and you need those types of diversion programs and organized activities with mentorship, older adults that can teach children, show them the way to behave in a polite society. We're lacking that right now, and we need to compensate for that because we're seeing the effects of it on our streets on a daily basis. To have young people as young as 13 and 14 with guns in their backpacks engaging in this horrific violent activity, it's unacceptable on a societal level. We have to respond to it.
It'll be interesting to see how the council responds, too.
Yes, indeed.
Definitely.
It will.
We appreciate the conversation, which could go on for a while, but unfortunately we have to cut it short here. Alderman Hopkins, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.